What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu, and you're watching the TF Movie Show. This is just a web series. We're talking about Transformers live-action movie franchise. This is episode number 31. And in this episode, we are going to talk about Rotten Tomatoes. That's right. We're going to talk about the very popular website, www.rottentomatoes.com. And the reason why is because Bumblebee, the sixth installment in a live-action Transformers film franchise, finally has a certified fresh tomato rating. Now that is a pretty big deal because it's never had one. It's always been Rotten Tomatoes for the previous 5 films since the very beginning. And all of these films have been directed by Michael Bay. They change up the director and suddenly it's got a certified fresh rating. But not only is it a certified fresh rating, we're talking about above 90%. That's a huge deal. And that's why we got to talk about it. Now, with regards to Rotten Tomatoes, the opinion about this very popular website is that it's really quite divided. Some people love it and they love using it, and there's another group of people that love to hate it. Like they hate using this they hate this website. They don't hate using it, they hate this website. Especially Transformers fans. The website keeps on crapping on their beloved franchise, and they don't like that. It's kind of like rooting for your favorite sports team. At the end of the day, you just want to have a win. You want to have a good movie. They want their franchise to actually have a good movie, but when someone talks crap about it, they get all mad. And that's why it's so divided. There's a lot of people who love to use the website because they find it's a very informative resource for determining on whether or not they should spend the money or save their money in going to watch a movie. And, that's a very fair that's exactly the reason why anybody would want to use this website, to help them determine whether they should go or not. Well, let me explain to you something. The fact that Rotten Tomatoes has a certified fresh rating for Bumblebee, while it sounds like it's a big deal, it really is not a big deal. It isn't. And I'll explain why. First of all, you gotta know how Rotten Tomatoes work. A lot of people think they know how Rotten Tomatoes work, but they actually don't. When they say things like, I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes, well, you can't actually trust the website. You're trusting the critics. You're not actually trusting the website, actually. The website is a review aggregator a site. So it takes the reviews and it gives it an average number, and suddenly you have a rating, a score, and what they call a tomato meter. Now, I'm going to explain how this all works in a very short version because there's really no need to really spend a lot of time explaining how this works. So I'll give you the short version of it. Okay, there's 2 ratings for the tomato meter on RottenTomatoes.com. There's a fresh rating, which is above 60%, and then there's the rotten tomato rating, which is 59% and lower. Okay, so there's only 2 ratings, one or the other. Okay, and then there's a certified fresh rating, which means that the critics have determined that this is definitely a good movie because of the amount of fresh tomatoes that it has. Okay, now in the past 11 years, in the first 5 films, in the 5 previous films directed by Michael Bay, they've always received Rotten Tomato ratings. Okay, this is the only film. Bumblebee is the only film that actually has a certified fresh rating. So let me give you an example of how this all works. Okay, so let's say you have 80 critics that went out to watch Bumblebee, which are contributors to the Rotten Tomatoes website. So you have 80 critics who went to watch Bumblebee, and every single one of them gave this film, let's say 6.2 out of 10. 6.2 out of 10. That's not like an overly high score, but it's definitely not a bad score. It's above average. They all gave it 6.2 out of 10. Every single one of those reviews has a fresh tomato. Every single one of them. 100% of them, that's 80 out of 80, gave it a positive review. It's either going to be negative or positive review. 6.2 out of 10 is a positive review. So that, by Rotten Tomatoes standards, is called 100%. Okay? So that's where the problem lies. A lot of people view this as that it's a perfect film. It's a great film. It's an outstanding film. Definitely it is. But 80 people decided that it is an above average film, just above average, but Rotten Tomatoes translates that as 100% rating. It's a must-see film. It isn't a must-see film. It's a must-see film for Transformers fans. But that it by no means does that mean it's a perfect film. Now, let me give you another example. This will really, really, blow your mind. Let's say that, Bumblebee was reviewed by, for some weird reason, only 6 critics. For some weird act of God, like all the critics decided that they don't want to write a review for Bumblebee. They decided, 80 out of the, only 6 out of the 80 critics that were going to write a review for Bumblebee decided that I don't want to watch this movie anymore. I'm done with watching Transformers. Okay? So only 6 of them decided to watch it. They all gave it a 6.2 out of 10. 6 reviewers out of 6 reviewers giving it 6.2 out of 10 equates to 100%. So therefore, Bumblebee getting 100% really is not a big deal. And that's how Rotten Tomatoes work. Okay? So now that you understand how that works, it still doesn't really seem like a big deal, but it's still, in a way, it is. Let's just go back to the very beginning of when Bumblebee started getting this high rating. Okay, now this was back in December 8th. People watched the early special screening of Bumblebee, and then a few days later, we started getting our reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. So, 100%, 17 ratings. That's only 17 ratings. 17 people decided that they liked this film. They probably didn't think it was perfect. They didn't give it a 10 out of 10. They maybe gave it a 6 or a 7 or 8 or 9, whatever. Ended up being 100%. The next day, 96%. One rotten tomato, one poor review, so 96%. Then it jumped back up to 97% because more good reviews started coming up. Then 98%, which is awesome, but it dropped down to 94% because there was 4 rotten tomatoes. So 4 people didn't like it. And then 93%, it's dropping. Now I'm wondering at this point, how much lower is it going to drop? It went back up, 95%. 94%, 93%, and that's where it ended up. 93%. That is the very, very last time, and this is where it's closing out at. 93%, and the last time I checked, 162 fresh tomatoes and 12 rotten tomatoes. Pretty big deal, certified fresh. A lot of critics liked it, or at least they gave it a positive review, and only 12 critics did not like this film, or they thought that there were more cons than there were pros. Very, very understandable. I don't think it's a perfect film, but I still really, really enjoyed it, and I'm not even a critic. I'm just a YouTube movie reviewer, okay? Now that's awesome. That's a pretty big deal. Now let's look back at the previous films, okay? And I'm going to rank them by tomato meter. Bumblebee at 93%. Transformers at 57%. That's a 2007 film. 35% for Dark of the Moon. Revenge of Fallen has 90%. Age of Extinction at 18% and 15% for Last Night. It just keeps on dropping. Last Night was the last film that came out last year. Very, very recent. A year and a half ago. So, in a way, to the minds of the critics, before watching Bumblebee, they're probably thinking to themselves, oh man, Transformers Last Night is the last Transformers film that I ever want to watch. It was terrible. Oh my god, we're getting another one, and not only are we getting another one, we're getting another one immediately a year after? Oh my god, I have to sit through this again? That's probably what they were thinking before they watched Bumblebee. Now, here is where I'm going to tell you or explain to you why this is not a big deal. Okay? So, the first 5 films were directed by Michael Bay. They understand Michael Bay's style of storytelling, the way he makes films, and these films just keep on getting significantly worse and worse and worse, in their opinion. That's why they keep on writing poor reviews for it. So now they have a stigma attached to the Michael Bay name and the Transformers brand. They have this negative stigma attached to it. They cannot seem to get away from that, especially when the films keep on getting worse and worse and worse. They see what other critics are saying as well, and they're kind of jumping on this bandwagon where they determine that these films are going to have the same approach to it, and it just keeps on getting worse. Like, let's say if a film has an approach and then the next film has the exact same approach, you're going to determine that the next film that has the same approach is worse, and it's just going to get worse and worse because they keep on doing the same thing. Okay? So we've established that. We've established that the critics hate Transformers Michael Bay's Transformers brand. We have just established that, and The Last Knight is the worst film in the franchise. Now we've completely established that. Oh wait, we have another film coming out, and it's not directed by Michael Bay, and they definitely changed a lot of things for this franchise. Suddenly they like it. 93%. Now why is this not a big deal? Because of this key word, relativity. It is all relative. All Travis Knight, or rather all Bumblebee had to do was be slightly better than the last film, Transformers Last Knight. That's all it had to do. All it had to do was just have elements in it that make the film good. It didn't have to be perfect, but it just had to be slightly better. And that would change the minds of all the critics. Like, think about it. Let's say I'm a critic. Okay, I'm one of these Rotten Tomatoes critics. I've been reviewing these films for the last 10 years, and I hated every single one of them. And suddenly, this film gives us G1 designs, nostalgia, an actual story, an emotional story I can connect with. I'm going to give it a good rating. I'm going to tell you guys that, whoa, this actually feels really different. This actually is a good movie. Okay, so I'm just one critic. Now imagine if 80 critics felt the exact same way. It's going to have like a 90% rating, and it's all because their minds were changed a little bit. That's all it takes. Because it's all relative. Let's say that a critic kept on, like all these critics that keep on rating Transformers films from Michael Bay, they only rate it 5%, or rather, sorry, not 5%, 5 out of 10. Let's say they keep on rating it 5 out of 10, okay, with every single film. Then they decided to rate Bumblebee 6 out of 10. Just one extra point. That movie's getting 100% in Rotten Tomatoes. You see what I'm saying? It's all relative. It's really not a big deal. This film only had to be better than The Last Knight. Because Last Knight came out last year. It was their lasting impression. And it was an impression that I don't want to say lasted with them, because that's too much of saying that word. But it's an impression that was their last idea of Transformers. And as long as you make it better, as long as you make them enjoy it just a little bit more, then they'll give it a higher score. And I'm not talking about 9 out of 10 or anything, even though a lot of reviewers gave it a 9 out of 10. I'm talking about what would be determined a fresh tomato. 6 out of 10. All of them gave it a 6 out of 10. Let's just say all of them gave it a 6 out of 10. Bumblebee has a certified fresh rating. It's not a big deal. Like I said, it's all relative. This is a celebration for Transformers fans, because suddenly their beloved franchise has a fresh tomato. But actually, it's not a big deal. I'm very happy that it has a certified fresh rating, because people will now go out to watch it more. But like I said before, it's not a big deal. Look, I know there is the cliche saying that I always read on Facebook comments or YouTube comments, which says, go watch the movie and you make up your own mind. It's a very cliche saying. It's not even the point. The point of Rotten Tomatoes is whether you should go watch the movie, to spend that money to go watch it, okay? But it's not about making up your mind whether to determine whether the movie is good or bad, because you've already spent that money, okay? So a lot of people don't really get it. But now I'm explaining to you that this is not a big deal, and this is how it works. And honestly speaking, this is not actually groundbreaking. In a way, it really isn't. In a way, it is. But when you really work down to the technical details, it's not that big of a deal. I'm really happy. Like I said before, I'm really happy. It's a celebration. It's a win. But yeah, if only 2 reviewers gave Bumblebee a 6 out of 10, it's still 100%. And that's how this website works. And that's why using this scoring system as your guideline on whether you should watch a movie or not is completely flawed. It's completely flawed. It's a guideline. Go watch the movie if you want to watch the movie. You see a trailer, it looks good, go watch the movie. You watch a trailer and it looks boring, don't watch the movie. It's that simple. If you don't want to watch a movie, you don't want to watch a movie. Don't let a website decide for you. If you let a website, people you don't know, complete stranger you don't know, decide for you, then that's a pretty sad life. You should make your own decision. Stand up for yourself. Be a leader, not a follower. Okay? Anyways, go watch this movie. Follow my lead. I'm about to watch it 4 times. I mean, for my 4th time. But I just really wanted to get this off my chest. I really wanted to talk about this because there's a lot of hypocrites out there that keep on saying that, oh, you know, I hate this website, I don't rely on it. Then suddenly they're telling people, that the haters of this franchise, that, hey, go watch this movie. It has 93%. Come on, don't use Rotten Tomatoes as your example to go watch, to convince someone to go watch a movie. Use the fact that it's actually a good movie. And you actually want to give this movie a chance because this franchise deserves another chance. The critics like this movie because it was not Michael Bay. Get that. I mean, understand that. Get that in your head. Okay? That's the only reason why. And then it was also a good movie. But actually, it kind of still follows a little bit of the same formula as the first one and other films like E.T., Iron Giant, Short Circuit, a little bit of Ready Player One. It's got that formula where kids are discovering things and wonders and going on adventures. It's something that we've seen before, but they're using their decisions on they're getting rid of this. They've gotten that negative stigma of a Michael Bay directed Transformers film to convince themselves that this is a good movie. But actually, it's a good movie because there's a lot of great elements in it, and that's responsible for not just the director, but the writers, the actors, everybody involved. So there you have it. Anyways, I just spent 17 minutes talking about Rotten Tomatoes. But this is something that I had to get off my chest. And also, I hope you guys got something out of this. I hope you guys got some information and some knowledge about how this website works, and maybe it'll change your perspective on how you really view this site, because I think you really should use this site merely as a guideline and not a determining factor. I've watched so many films that have Rotten Tomatoes on them, and it's not because, and it's mostly because rather that I watched a trailer and the trailer sucked me in. It engaged me. It caught my attention. And also the fact that I just wanted to watch the movie because I knew that it was being made, and I'm like, I'm interested in this story. I want to go watch it. Make your own mind. Make your own decisions. Don't let others decide for you. Anyways, that's all I got to say in this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Rotten Tomatoes, a certified fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes for Bumblebee is not a big deal. Believe me, it really isn't. But it's a great thing. Still, it is. As always, if you want to see more of these episodes, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter, Ragin Nation. My name is Alex, and thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.